Hey, so I know that you're probably checking out the iPhone 16e and you're wondering, should I buy it? Is it the right phone for me? Well, today I'm going to give you a few reasons on why you should buy the iPhone 16e if you have a older iPhone than you think. Let me show you. Hey, so my name is Dan. This is my channel, Cafe con Dan. I know it doesn't make sense. It's a long story, but I love technology. I actually worked for Apple for 19 years, and now I serve as a pastor at my local church. But I love iPhone and I love Apple and all things tech. So this review is coming from that perspective. So here's the thing. I know you're probably asking, do I or should I get the iPhone 16e? And personally, I think you probably should, depending on what iPhone you're coming from. Me personally, I'm still rocking the iPhone 15 Pro Max, and to me, it doesn't quite make sense just yet. But let me show you what I mean. Here are a couple of reasons what I look at when I look at the brand new iPhone 16e. So if you go to Apple's website right now, www.apple.com, obviously, and I'm going to do this comparison by evaluating the iPhone 15 and the iPhone 15 Pro. Now, follow me for just a second. These are very brand new phones, right? If you are rocking an iPhone 15 or a 15 Pro or a 15 Pro Max, you are pretty good when it comes to your iPhone. And most likely, you're not even considering getting a new iPhone just yet. But I want to give you this frame of thought that if you have anything older than the iPhone 15, then I really need you to kind of pay attention. Now, I want to start off with the timing of this launch. Pre-orders for the iPhone 16e begin next Friday, if depending when you're watching this, on February 28th. And if you think about it, the iPhone 16 and the 16 Pro Max came out right at the fall, right around September, October. So chances are a new one's going to be launching around the fall again in September or in October of 2025. So we are kind of at the midway point before that device comes out. Now, you probably already paid off your iPhone 14 or maybe 13 or even older than that. So you're probably itching for a new one. Maybe battery's not lasting, maybe your screen's cracked, who knows? So I want to show you the key differences between these devices. So let's do this comparison from that state of mind, right? From the 15 forward, which again are very, very new. So here we go with the actual tech specs. If we're looking at the iPhone 16e, right, comes in one size, which is the graphic there on your screen, all the way to the far right. It is a 6.1 screen. If you're comparing it again to an iPhone 15 Pro or even the iPhone 15 in the same size, well, you got the same size screen. Now, there are some key differences in the iPhone 15 Pro or really any of the Pro models, and it adds things like ProMotion technology and always on display. Now, this may be a deal breaker for you. The always on display is kind of cool. It's kind of where your iPhone is always on. I know you can't really see with all the glare, but it's where your screen is always on, and just by glancing on it, you can see the time. Maybe that's a deal breaker already for you, but the new iPhone 16e does not have that. And ProMotion is really if you're a gaming, if you're really doing a lot of scrolling with your phone, and I don't mean like on Instagram or anything like that, but really intense graphic, then maybe the ProMotion is a deal breaker. But honestly, for the majority of us, not a deal breaker. Now, let's take a look at what's under the hood. Let's talk about processors. And I know, especially when I talk to friends of mine that are always asking me, hey, Dan, what does this even mean? Well, it means a lot, but let me break it down for you as easy as I can, or at least the way that I like to think about it. The new iPhone 16e does have the latest and greatest chip, which is the Apple A18 chip. Now, this processor, it is in all of the rest of the iPhone 16 models. Now, there is some differences. If you look at for example, the one in the middle, the 15 Pro Max, you can see that well, it has a smaller number, right? A17. It must be slower than the A18. Not necessarily. If you look at that, there are a couple of different items underneath, right? 6-core CPU, 6-core GPU. What on earth does that mean? Well, that really means like the horsepower behind the processor. Now, I'm going to break it down to you like I used to with customers. It really depends on what you're doing with your phone. Think about this for a minute. You have a car, most likely, right? You probably have a car in your driveway, in your parking lot, in the garage, and it has an engine. Do you ever drive your car with the gas pedal all the way down, or maybe you're driving an electric car? Like, do you really drive that car to the full capacity, as fast as you can? Legally, right? Do you really need all of that horsepower? It all depends on what you do. If you are a content creator, if you're shooting a lot of videos and pictures and you're doing a bunch of editing on the device, can that device do it? Yes, it's just a matter of how quickly it can do it. Again, for the majority of you, the majority of us that are not doing that on a daily basis, it's more than enough power. Now, what it talks about the GPU, right? You do see on the brand new 16E, it has 4 core versus, let's say, a 6 core on a previous model. That is your graphic processor unit. Again, if you're doing high intensity graphics, if you are gaming, and I'm not talking about if you're gaming on just some, Pokemon game or some, solitaire game. If you're playing in hardcore first person battle, if you're gaming a serious game, then you will notice some of that game buffering or a little bit of lag. But I'm telling you right now, you're not going to notice a whole lot difference if you're an everyday iPhone user. The way that I talk to people and I see most people use their phones, they use it for social media, obviously communications and text messaging, and really taking pictures. So to me, the greatest feature of all of these reviews is, what does the camera look like? And I love cameras. I'm talking to a camera right now. What does the iPhone 16 offer in camera? Well, let's check that out. And I think this is where you should really kind of pay attention a little bit. If you look all the way to the far right on your screen, you have again the 16E. If you notice, it only has a 2-in-1, or basically a one lens camera in the back. Now, what that really means is that when you look at your device, if you have a 15 Pro Max or a 15 or even one of the other ones, and it has all these multiple lenses, really those lenses have individual features and there are advantages of why you have multiple lenses, but really it's what's behind there. Now, on the new 16E, you have just one lens and they call it a 2-in-1 camera system, the 48 megapixel fusion lens. Now, megapixels, sometimes it could be an overrated thing, right? More megapixels does not necessarily mean better pictures. It's all about what's behind those megapixels, right? What is the camera sensor that's absorbing all of that data gonna do with your picture? But for this review, let's just look at the 16 Pro Max and the 16. All three of them have the 48 megapixel branding on their camera, with the only difference is that the Pro Max on the 15 and prior, they do have separate lenses. They have an ultra wide lens and they have a telephoto lens, and that will come into play in a little bit. But I want you to look at the 48 megapixel fusion camera. So if you look at the 16E, it has both the 24 megapixels and the 48 megapixels. And honestly, what that really means, it doesn't mean that you're taking two pictures at the same time, one at 24 and one at 48. That means is if you take a regular picture, right, without zooming in, you're going to take a 48 megapixel image, and that's good. Why is that good? It's because you have more information there. So if you do want to kind of zoom in and crop the picture afterwards, then you are reducing the size of that image, but you have enough data where the image is going to look pretty good. Now, let's be honest. And let me ask you a question, and I would love if you drop the comment below. What do you do with the pictures that you take on your phone? I have probably upwards of 30,000 images on my iCloud account on my device, right? Because I've been taking iPhone pictures since iPhone launched in 2007. Again, worked at Apple for 19 years. I've only had iPhones for all of that time since now. The majority of my pictures I'm using for social media. I'm using it for the family chat on my family chats on my device. I'm hardly ever going to print out an image, and when I do, and I send that image to an online service or your local CVS or Walgreens, whatever your flavor is, it comes out pretty good. So do we need more megapixels? I don't know. If you do need more megapixels, then chances are you're probably rocking the brand new DJI Pocket Osmo 3, or you're probably rocking some DSLR camera already. But the iPhone camera is the one that you always have in your back pocket. And it's good enough, and most of your pictures stay on your device. Like, that's my truck. I took that picture on this iPhone. I haven't printed it out. I just did a couple of edits and I'm using it on my device. So you see, it's not always about the latest and greatest and what you really need, but I want to give you the information as it sits. So again, looking at Apple's website, it has a 48 megapixel fusion camera. It has the portrait mode and the depth control. That's where the blurry background comes out, makes your image look a little bit nicer or more professional, as if you were taking it on a digital DSLR camera. Now you notice one difference here. We start to come in, and it's on the macro photography. The new 16E does not have macro photography. Well, Dan, what does that mean? That means if you love to take pictures really up close of animals or insects or flowers or anything, that image won't, the camera won't be physically able to focus in at a very, very short distance. Are there workarounds? Yes, of course there's workarounds. You can always buy a lens kit that comes on top. You can always take the picture a little bit further and zoom on in. You can use other tips and tricks to get macro photography, but chances are you're not taking macro photography. It's a very niche style of photography. It has Dolby Vision up to 4K, 60 frames per second. That's like super duper high def, right? It does not have spatial photos or videos. And again, spatial photos and videos, that's something brand new. That's if you're rocking the all new Apple Vision Pro virtual reality headset. Again, the majority of us are not using that quite extensively just yet, so this one may not even make sense for you. And it does have the photo or the photographic styles already there, so that means that you can create your pre-filters, you can create your custom settings, so that every time you take a picture you have your style of look and feel to your picture. Again, the majority of us are doing that after the fact, and the reality is a lot of us are doing that right through our social media platforms and filters. So I have a question, because I get this a lot. Where are you posting most of your images? Are you posting them to Facebook? Are you posting them to Instagram or TikTok, or what platform, or on your family chat? Let me know below, and then tell me. I'm really, really curious. Are you editing those pictures? Are you using whatever editing capabilities you have through, like, let's say, tools like social media, like an Instagram? Or are you using the onboard camera features from the iPhone? Or are you even using a third-party camera app on your device? Let me know. I'm really, really curious about that. Now, one of the last things that I do want to kind of talk about that may be a deal breaker is MagSafe charging, the wireless charging. It does have wireless charging, as you can see there, up to 7.5 watts compared to 15 watts in the previous model. Well, Dan, what does that mean? What is watts? Am I going to have to call an electrician? No, no, no. It just means at the speed of which your phone will charge. It will be, you can technically say, almost half as fast, right? A little bit slower than the previous model, but it does not include MagSafe wireless charging. What that really means is the it can, you can definitely lay your phone on a wireless charger, but it's not going to stick on a wireless charger, if that makes sense. A lot of us on our cars now, we just kind of drive up and or walk in and pop our phone on our dash somewhere there, or maybe by your nightstand. So it does not have that magnetic sense. Now, I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, but I do want to kind of highlight why I do think the iPhone 16e might make sense. I think it'll make sense to anybody who has an iPhone 15, maybe, and previous. For sure, if you have an iPhone older than iPhone 15. Why? Your battery right now probably doesn't last as long as it should. The new iPhone 16 has a very long battery life, and that's due to the efficiencies that Apple continues to improve on. The other thing is that um, as the iOS software itself gets better and better, and honestly, uh, gives us more and more features, your phone's going to continue to drain that battery. So an iPhone 16e may make perfect sense if you have an older iPhone because your battery is probably not lasting long enough. The biggest thing that I think it's really worth is for the Apple Intelligence. And I know, and I'll probably do a second video on that. As you can tell, this channel is pretty new. I used to have a coffee channel, and I love coffee, by the way. But I really love tech even more. Apple Intelligence gets a lot of bad rap, and it is kind of a scary technology, but it is so incredibly useful. So I will probably do a series on what, Apple Intelligence is, what AI is, how Apple's approach to Apple Intelligence, and give you from an ex-employee's point of view a peek behind the curtain as to why I truly love the way that Apple secures our data. It's huge. Now, the iPhone 16e does allow you to have the Apple Intelligence built in. There is a strong partnership with ChatGPT, but again, what I love is that there is a separation. You're fully aware when you're using the Apple Intelligence and when it's not, and when it's required or needing to use ChatGPT. Again, leave me a comment below if you want to know more about that, or if AI in general is confusing. But the iPhone 16e does have that capability. If you have an iPhone 15 or before or prior, you don't have that feature. So that may be enough to get you through the threshold. Now, at the end of the day, this is what I like to look at. Pre-orders begin next week on February 28th. But I'd love to open up the Apple App Store app on your device. And this is probably the easiest if you do it there. And I'm just going to click on the brand new iPhone 16e, and it's going to ask me if I have a trade-in, and I do have a trade-in. So right now, if I were to trade in my iPhone 15 Pro Max, again, I wouldn't recommend it, right? This is still a great device. Right now, the trade-in on this is a 512 gigabyte device. I get up to $630 on a trade-in. Now, if you do the math, if you go to apple.com, you would notice that the biggest attraction from the iPhone 16e is that it is a budget or a more budget-friendly device. It's just at $500, a little bit over 500. So I can technically trade this in and walk away with an iPhone 16e, 128 gigabytes for $0. Now, doesn't make sense because of the tech specs, but I could do that. I could also trade in an iPhone 14. I have one as well here that it's an iPhone 14 256 gigabyte. I would get $270. Now, here's where I want to kind of frame this up. iPhone 14, we didn't talk about today, but iPhone 14 definitely falls off that picture that I set for you, meaning it's probably time to upgrade, right? So an iPhone 14, 256 gigabytes, I'm getting $270. That is a little bit more than half off of what I would pay for the iPhone 16e. If you have an old iPhone 8, right? We have one, it's an emergency phone, probably haven't used it in a while. 64 gigabytes, talk about like a throwback in gold too. I get $40. Hey, might as well recycle it, do the earth some good. But if you have an iPhone 14 or before, maybe a chance to be looking at this. And if you have an iPhone 11, I'll give you one more example. You get $120 off. So now may be the time to trade in an iPhone 14 or older and get the max that you can for that device, because as we get closer to the fall, as we get closer to October, the new iPhone would come out and all these trade-in values will come down a notch. Listen, I hope that this video, in my short, brief explanation, or at least my thoughts of why you should get the iPhone 16e if you have an iPhone 14 or older, makes sense to you. Recapping, iPhone 16e has a brand new camera, has, I should say, a very decent camera, just like most of the current iPhone lineups, way better than the iPhone 14 or before, has an even better battery life. It has Apple Intelligence. You even have the action button that the new devices have, where you can program this button to do simple things as turning on a flashlight or running some other apps or shortcuts that you have. You have good enough reasons to upgrade if, in my opinion, you're coming from an iPhone 14e or below. So hey, Stay tuned for more. If you are interested in anything Apple, let me know down below. Give me some honest feedback. I'm super rookie at standing before a camera and talking to you like this, but I do value your feedback. I know that all these YouTubers want you to subscribe and at least like the video, drop me a comment, give me some honest feedback. I will be reading each and every one of them, and I will catch you on the next one. Cafe con Dan. Weird name, I know, but I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.